As I have often contemplated the human psyche, I have come to realize that the mind is far more than a personal repository of experiences and memories. There exists a deeper layer, one that transcends the boundaries of the individual, reaching into the very essence of humanity itself. I call this layer the collective unconscious. It is a part of the unconscious mind that is not shaped by personal experience, but inherited. As if we are born carrying within us the echoes of our ancestors, the wisdom and the fears of those who came before us. From the moment I first began to study dreams, myths, and symbols across cultures, it became evident that certain motifs appeared universally. These motifs, images of the mother, the hero, the trickster, the wise old man, are not merely inventions of imagination or culture. They are archetypal expressions residing in the collective unconscious of all people. In my early clinical work, I encountered patients whose dreams seemed impossible to explain solely through their personal histories. One patient, a young man, recounted a dream in which he was facing a shadowy figure that spoke to him in a language he did not know. Yet, the emotional intensity of the dream, the fear and fascination it evoked, was unmistakable. It became clear to me that the source of this dream was not his personal experiences, but a shared, ancestral reservoir of psychic content that has been carried through generations. This realization opened a new world of understanding. Human beings are connected, not only through social or familial bonds, but through a deeper, psychic inheritance that transcends time and space. I have spent many years attempting to delineate the contours of this collective unconscious, to understand how it manifests in our thoughts, behaviors, and dreams. It is a domain rich with archetypes, which I define as universal, primordial images and themes that recur across cultures. These archetypes are not learned, they emerge spontaneously, suggesting an inherited structure of the psyche. The mother archetype, for example, appears in the myths and stories of every civilization I have studied. She can be nurturing and protective, yet also terrifying and devouring, reflecting the complex and ambivalent feelings humans have toward the source of life itself. Similarly, the hero appears across cultures, embarking on journeys of struggle and transformation, symbolizing the human desire to confront challenges and grow beyond the limitations of the self. The collective unconscious is not static, it is a dynamic system that interacts with the personal unconscious, influencing our conscious thoughts, emotions, and actions. It communicates with the conscious mind primarily through symbols, dreams, and myths. When a person dreams of a dragon, a serpent, or a wise elder, these images are often not personal inventions but archetypal symbols, emerging from the collective unconscious. By studying these symbols, I have sought to uncover the universal patterns of human experience, to reveal the hidden threads that connect all people, regardless of their time, place, or culture. In my own reflections, I have come to appreciate that the collective unconscious carries both light and darkness. It contains the wisdom of our ancestors, their creativity, courage, and insight, but also their fears, prejudices, and destructive impulses. It is in facing these aspects of the collective unconscious that individuals can begin the process of individuation, the term I use to describe the integration of conscious and unconscious elements into a harmonious whole. Individuation is not merely a personal journey, it is a recognition of our shared humanity, a confrontation with the inherited depths of the psyche, and a reconciliation with the aspects of ourselves that have been shaped by forces beyond our personal experience. My study of myths, religion, and cultural symbols has reinforced the idea that the collective unconscious is universal. Whether in the ancient myths of Greece, the spiritual traditions of India, or the folk tales of indigenous peoples, I have observed recurring patterns and archetypes that point to a shared psychic heritage. These symbols speak across the ages, reminding us that we are not isolated beings, but participants in a continuum of human experience. By recognizing the influence of the collective unconscious, we gain insight into the forces that shape our lives, our dreams, and our cultures. and we begin to understand that the psyche is both deeply personal and profoundly collective. Moreover, I have often been struck by the ethical and spiritual implications of the collective unconscious. To confront the inherited aspects of our psyche is to acknowledge that we are not solely the product of our individual choices. We carry within us the joys and sorrows of countless generations. We inherit not only genetic traits but also psychic structures, symbolic frameworks, and emotional patterns. Understanding this inheritance can lead to a greater sense of responsibility, compassion, and humility. We realize that our actions resonate beyond the immediate, that we are part of a larger human story, and that our personal growth is intertwined with the collective evolution of humanity. In conclusion, the collective unconscious represents a profound dimension of the human psyche, one that connects us to our ancestors, our myths, and the universal patterns of existence. It challenges the notion of individuality, revealing that our minds are shaped not only by personal experiences, but also by inherited structures that transcend time and culture. By studying and engaging with the collective unconscious, we gain access to the wisdom, creativity, and transformative potential of humanity as a whole. We begin to understand ourselves not as isolated entities, but as inheritors of a vast, timeless, and shared psychic legacy, a legacy that calls us to explore, reflect, and ultimately, to integrate the depths of our own being. I have always regarded dreams as a privileged pathway into the deeper layers of the psyche. In my clinical practice, I observe that the content of dreams often transcends personal experience, touching upon symbols and narratives that appear across cultures, times, and civilizations. These dreams, I came to understand, are not merely private fantasies or the result of unconscious wishes. They are windows into the collective unconscious, revealing patterns of human experience that are inherited rather than learned. The study of dreams thus became a central instrument in my exploration of the collective psyche, offering a bridge between the individual and the universal. Early in my career, I encountered a patient whose recurring dreams featured vast, shadowy landscapes, populated by figures that seemed to carry immense symbolic weight. He described encounters with a wise old man, a monstrous serpent, and a radiant child, each evoking powerful emotions: fear, awe, and longing. Yet none of these figures could be traced to his personal life experiences. How could such imagery rise? Gradually, I realized that these symbols were not personal inventions, but archetypal images, manifestations of the collective unconscious that emerge spontaneously in the human mind. They are inherited patterns, shaped over countless generations, appearing in myths, religious rituals, folklore, and art. The archetypes revealed themselves in dreams as motifs of universal significance. The wise old man represents guidance, insight, and the search for knowledge. The child embodies renewal, innocence, and potential. The shadow reflects the aspects of the psyche that are denied or repressed. These symbols appear across cultures, suggesting that the human mind is not merely shaped by individual experience, but is structured by deeper, inherited forms. In my reflections, I recognize that dreams are a language, a symbolic expression of psychic truths that cannot be conveyed by ordinary discourse. To understand dreams is to listen to the voice of the collective unconscious, to discern the messages encoded in its symbols, and to allow them to guide the process of individuation. It is important to note that the collective unconscious is not easily accessible to the conscious mind. It speaks in metaphor, symbol, and story, and its messages often emerge indirectly through dreams, myths, and art. When a person dreams of a dragon or encounters a shadowy figure, these images are not mere coincidences, they are archetypal symbols that carry meaning beyond the individual. The dragon may represent challenges, fear, or the unknown. The shadow may point to hidden desires or repressed qualities. By attending to these symbols with curiosity and reflection, individuals can begin to integrate the insights of the collective unconscious into their conscious lives, achieving greater self-understanding and wholeness. I have also observed that the collective unconscious is dynamic. interacting with the personal unconscious and influencing conscious behavior. It is not a fixed repository of images, but a living, evolving dimension of the psyche. As society changes, as cultures shift and technology transforms our ways of thinking, the archetypes continue to emerge, adapting to new contexts while retaining their essential symbolic meaning. In this way, the collective unconscious functions as both a mirror of human history and a guide for personal and collective development. Dreams are the natural language through which it communicates, providing insight into the enduring structures of the psyche, and revealing the ways in which inherited patterns shape human life. The study of dreams also reveals the tension between the conscious mind and the unconscious. Dreams often present contradictions, paradoxes, and conflicts, reflecting the interplay between personal desires and collective patterns. For example, a dream of being chased may express a personal anxiety, but if the pursuer takes the form of a monstrous archetypal figure, the dream speaks to inherited fears and primal instincts shared by humanity. By paying attention to these symbols, individuals can uncover the hidden forces that shape their emotions and behaviors, and can begin the process of reconciling conscious intentions with unconscious influences. Through my work with patients, I have come to see that the process of engaging with the collective unconscious is not merely intellectual, it is deeply experiential. One must approach it with reverence, patience, and humility, recognizing that the psyche carries within it the accumulated wisdom and suffering of countless generations. Dreams are invitations, guiding us towards self-knowledge and transformation, revealing aspects of ourselves that are larger than our individual experience. They remind us that we are part of a lineage of human consciousness, connected across time and space by patterns that transcend personal history. In conclusion, dreams are among the most profound expressions of the collective unconscious. They reveal archetypal images and inherited patterns that shape our lives, connecting us to the deeper currents of human experience. By studying dreams, reflecting upon their symbols, and integrating their insights, we gain access to a dimension of the psyche that is both personal and universal. The collective unconscious is not a distant abstraction, it is alive within us, guiding, challenging, and inspiring us to recognize the continuity of humanity. To listen to our dreams is to listen to the voices of our ancestors, to perceive the wisdom they have passed down, and to begin the lifelong journey of individuation, becoming fully who we are meant to be within the larger story of human existence. As I delved deeper into the nature of the collective unconscious, I realized that it was not merely a repository of inherited images, but an active, organizing principle of the psyche. These inherited patterns, archetypes, as I have named them, serve as the structural backbone of human experience, shaping our perceptions, emotions, and behaviors. Archetypes are not learned, they arise spontaneously and universally, emerging in dreams, myths, religious rituals, and artistic expressions across all cultures. Their recurring presence demonstrates that there are fundamental structures in the human mind that transcend personal experience and cultural boundaries. The archetypes are numerous, but certain figures consistently manifest across time and space. The mother, for instance, appears in countless forms, nurturing and protective, yet sometimes destructive and devouring. She is the source of life and sustenance, but also a symbol of the unconscious forces that can overwhelm the conscious mind. Similarly, the hero emerges in stories from ancient Greece to contemporary literature, representing the struggle to confront challenges, overcome adversity, and achieve personal transformation. The wise old man, the trickster, and the child are additional examples of archetypal figures whose presence in human imagination reflects universal aspects of the human experience. I have often marveled at the consistency with which these archetypes appear across cultures. In one of my studies, I observed that a tribal myth from Africa mirrored elements of a European fairy tale. Despite the absence of contact between these communities, such similarities cannot be explained by mere coincidence. They are manifestations of the collective unconscious, expressing inherited structures of the human mind. These archetypal patterns provide guidance, warnings, and insight, often speaking to us through dreams, symbols, and stories that resonate with our deepest emotional and spiritual experiences. Archetypes function not only as images, but also as dynamic forces within the psyche. They influence behavior, shape emotions, and guide personal development. For example, the shadow, an archetype representing the hidden, repressed, or denied aspects of the self, can manifest as anger, fear, or self-sabotage if left unacknowledged. Yet by confronting and integrating the shadow, an individual gains strength, insight, and wholeness. This process is central to what I term individuation, the lifelong journey of integrating conscious and unconscious elements to achieve a harmonious, balanced personality. It is also important to recognize that archetypes are inherently symbolic. They communicate through metaphor, story, and image, rather than through literal explanation. The dragon in a dream, for example, is not simply a fantastical creature. It symbolizes a primal challenge, an obstacle or fear that must be confronted for growth to occur. Similarly, a dream of a wise old woman may represent guidance and insight emerging from the depths of the unconscious. By interpreting these symbols, one can access the wisdom of the collective unconscious, gaining insight into both personal development and universal human experience. The universality of archetypes also carries profound ethical and spiritual significance. To acknowledge that certain aspects of our psyche are inherited, shaped by countless generations of human experiences, to recognize that we are part of a continuum that stretches far beyond our individual lives. This awareness instills humility, compassion, and responsibility. We inherit not only the strengths and wisdom of our ancestors, but also their fears, limitations, and destructive tendencies. By engaging with the archetypes, we gain the opportunity to confront these inherited elements consciously, transforming them into sources of insight and growth rather than letting them unconsciously dictate our actions. In practical terms, archetypes often manifest in our daily lives through behavior, relationships, and creativity. Artists, poets, and writers frequently tap into archetypal imagery, producing works that resonate across cultures and generations. In therapy, recognizing the influence of archetypes allows for a deeper understanding of human motivation, conflict, and potential. By exploring these universal patterns, individuals can uncover hidden aspects of themselves and align their actions with deeper, more meaningful aspects of human experience. Moreover, archetypes are intimately connected to myths and cultural narratives. Across civilizations, stories emerge that reflect similar archetypal themes. The hero's journey, the mother's nurturing and destructive powers, the eternal battle between light and shadow. These narratives are not merely entertainment, they are expressions of the collective unconscious, offering guidance, insight, and a framework for understanding the human condition. In studying these myths, one discovers that the challenges, victories, and failures of our ancestors continue to echo in the human psyche, shaping the way we perceive ourselves and our world. Finally, I have come to appreciate that archetypes are not fixed. They evolve and adapt to changing cultural and historical circumstances. While the fundamental patterns remain, their expression is shaped by the society and era in which they appear. A hero in ancient mythology may differ in appearance and circumstance from a hero in modern literature, yet the underlying archetypal pattern, the struggle for growth, transformation, and self-realization, remains constant. In this way, the collective unconscious is a living, dynamic force, guiding humanity through both timeless and contemporary challenges. In conclusion, archetypes are the visible expressions of the collective unconscious, manifesting across dreams, myths, art, and daily life. They reveal inherited patterns of thought, emotion, and behavior, connecting us to our ancestors and the broader human experience. By studying and engaging with these archetypes, we gain insight into both personal and collective dimensions of the psyche. We learn to recognize the forces that shape our lives, to integrate shadow aspects, and to navigate the journey of individuation with awareness and purpose. In essence, archetypes are the language of the inherited mind, a profound testament to the enduring influence of the collective unconscious. As I explored the depths of the collective unconscious, I became increasingly aware of a force that resides in the shadows of the psyche. I call it the shadow, the aspect of the self that is hidden, repressed, or denied, often because it contains qualities that the conscious ego finds unacceptable. Yet the shadow is not merely a repository of weakness or evil, it also contains latent potential, creative energy, and insight. It is a vital part of the inherited human psyche, an archetypal pattern that has persisted throughout generations, influencing thoughts, behaviors, and dreams in ways that often go unnoticed. In my clinical practice, I frequently encountered individuals who were unable to recognize or accept parts of themselves. They projected these unacknowledged traits onto others, creating conflict, misunderstanding, and suffering. A man might feel intense anger toward a colleague, unaware that this anger reflects a suppressed aspect of his own personality. A woman might feel inexplicable fear or jealousy, projecting her inner tensions onto her family or social circle. In these moments, the shadow is revealed not only in individual behavior, but also in the collective, manifesting in social tensions, prejudice, and destructive patterns that repeat across cultures and history. The shadow, as an archetype, is deeply connected to the collective unconscious. It carries inherited patterns of human behavior, including the instincts, fears, and impulses of our ancestors. By acknowledging the shadow, we gain insight into these inherited forces, recognizing that our struggles are not solely personal, but part of a larger human story. Dreams, myths, and symbols often reveal the shadow in powerful and evocative ways. One may dream of monsters, dark forests, or violent storms, which are not literal threats but symbolic representations of unconscious forces that must be confronted and integrated. Integration of the shadow is a critical aspect of individuation, the process of becoming a whole, balanced self. To integrate the shadow is to bring into consciousness the aspects of the psyche that have been denied or repressed. This process requires courage, honesty, and humility, for it often confronts us with truths about ourselves that are uncomfortable or disturbing. Yet it is through this confrontation that transformation occurs. By facing the shadow, we gain access to hidden resources, creativity, and wisdom, transforming what was once a source of conflict into a source of strength. The shadow is also intricately linked to morality and ethics. Often, what is repressed in the individual psyche is mirrored in societal structures. Historical atrocities, collective violence, and systemic injustices can be understood, in part, as projections of the shadow onto external circumstances. By recognizing the shadow within ourselves, we are better equipped to understand and address these collective expressions of unconscious forces. This recognition is not an excuse for wrongdoing, but a call to awareness and responsibility, reminding us that the personal and the collective are deeply interconnected. In my observations, the shadow often communicates through indirect means. Dreams, myths, and artistic expressions reveal its presence, offering symbolic guidance. For example, a dream of being chased by a dark figure may initially evoke fear, but upon reflection, it can reveal suppressed desires, unresolved conflicts, or unacknowledged talents. Similarly, myths featuring battles with monsters or journeys through dark realms symbolize the confrontation with the shadow, illustrating the transformative potential inherent in facing what is hidden within ourselves. Moreover, the shadow is not solely a negative force. It contains the seeds of creativity, spontaneity, and authenticity. Many artists, writers, and innovators have drawn from the energy of their shadow, transforming inattention into profound works of expression. By embracing the shadow, we open ourselves to the richness and complexity of the psyche, accessing aspects of our humanity that are otherwise concealed. The process of engagement with the shadow is both personal and universal, reflecting the shared patterns of the collective unconscious and the continuity of human experience. I have often reflected on the paradoxical nature of the shadow. It is at once feared and essential, dark yet illuminating, destructive yet transformative. To deny it is to remain fragmented, vulnerable to projection and unconscious influence. To embrace it is to move toward wholeness. To integrate the diverse elements of the psyche into a cohesive, living self. The shadow, in this sense, serves as a guide, pointing the way toward deeper self-knowledge, maturity, and connection with the broader currents of human experience. In conclusion, the shadow is a central archetype of the collective unconscious, representing the unacknowledged, repressed, and hidden aspects of the psyche. It carries the inherited fears, impulses, and potential of humanity, influencing individual and collective behavior in profound ways. By confronting and integrating the shadow, we engage in a transformative process, uncovering latent creativity, insight, and wholeness. The shadow reminds us that the journey toward individuation is both a personal and collective endeavor, calling us to face the depths of our own being while recognizing the continuity of human experience across generations. In my explorations of the human psyche, I have come to understand that the ultimate goal of psychological development is what I term individuation, the process by which a person becomes a whole, fully realized self. Individuation is not simply personal growth, it is the conscious integration of the personal and collective unconscious into the conscious mind. Through this process, one comes to understand and harmonize the diverse elements of the psyche, including the archetypes, the shadow, and the inherited patterns that reside in the collective unconscious. It is a journey that requires courage, introspection, and a willingness to confront the unknown within oneself. The path of individuation begins with self-awareness. One must first acknowledge that there are aspects of the self that lie beyond immediate perception, hidden desires, suppressed emotions, and inherited tendencies. These elements often manifest symbolically, in dreams, myths, and imaginative experiences. By observing and reflecting upon these symbols, we begin to recognize the influence of the collective unconscious. For example, recurring dream motifs, such as encounters with powerful figures or transformative journeys, reveal archetypal patterns that guide personal development. The careful attention to these patterns fosters understanding, helping the individual to navigate the inner landscape of the psyche. Individuation also requires engagement with the shadow. As I have described, the shadow embodies the repressed, denied, or unacknowledged aspects of the self. Confronting the shadow is challenging because it forces us to face elements of our own nature that are uncomfortable or feared. Yet this confrontation is essential, for the shadow contains both destructive potential and creative energy. By integrating the shadow into consciousness, we not only diminish the unconscious power it holds over us, but also gain access to previously hidden resources, strength, insight, and the capacity for authentic action. In this sense, the shadow is both a guide and a test, illuminating the path toward wholeness. Another crucial element of individuation is the recognition and engagement with archetypes. These universal patterns, inherited through the collective unconscious, provide a roadmap for human development. The hero, the wise old man, the mother, and other archetypal figures appear in dreams, myths, and artistic expressions, offering guidance and insight. By understanding their symbolic significance, individuals can align their personal journey with universal patterns, fostering growth that is both deeply personal and profoundly connected to the broader human experience. The archetypes reveal not only our potential, but also the challenges we must face to achieve balance and integration. Individuation is not a linear process. It involves cycles of confrontation, reflection, and integration. There are moments of insight, clarity, and harmony, followed by periods of struggle, confusion, and resistance. This ebb and flow mirrors the natural rhythms of life and the psyche itself. Importantly, individuation is not a solitary endeavor. The inherited elements of the collective unconscious connect each person to humanity at large. Our struggles, triumphs, and transformations resonate with the experiences of countless generations, reminding us that personal growth is intertwined with the collective evolution of the human spirit. The spiritual dimension of individuation is equally significant, as one integrates the personal and collective unconscious. A sense of connection with something greater than the individual emerges. This may manifest as a deepened understanding of human nature, a sense of unity with humanity, or a profound appreciation for the mysteries of existence. Individuation, in this sense, is both psychological and spiritual, fostering a holistic approach to life in which consciousness is expanded and enriched. The process allows individuals to navigate the challenges of life with greater wisdom, resilience, and purpose. In practical terms, individuation can be facilitated through reflection, creative expression, and engagement with symbolic material. Dreams, art, literature, and religious or mythological narratives provide insights into the archetypal patterns that shape our inner world. By actively exploring these expressions, individuals cultivate awareness of both personal and inherited influences, integrating them into conscious understanding. This integration leads to greater authenticity, self-knowledge, and the capacity to live in alignment with one's true nature. It is also important to recognize that individuation is a lifelong journey. The psyche is complex and ever-evolving, and the collective unconscious continually interacts with the conscious mind. Each stage of life presents new challenges, symbols, and archetypal encounters. By maintaining openness to these experiences, by observing dreams and reflecting on the manifestations of the archetypes, individuals continue to grow, deepen their self-understanding, and refine their connection with the inherited wisdom of humanity. In conclusion, individuation is the conscious process of integrating the personal and collective unconscious into a coherent, harmonious self. It requires courage to confront the shadow, insight to understand the archetypes, and reflection to align personal experience with universal patterns. Through individuation, we inherit not only the lessons and wisdom of our ancestors, but also their resilience, creativity, and capacity for growth. This journey toward wholeness is both deeply personal and intimately connected to the broader human story. By embracing the process of individuation, we step into a richer, more integrated understanding of ourselves and our place in the continuum of human consciousness. As I reflect upon the totality of my studies, I am struck by the profound influence the collective unconscious exerts, not only on individual development, but also on the broader patterns of culture, society, and human history. The images, archetypes, and inherited patterns that reside within the collective unconscious shape myths, religious practices, artistic expression, and even social structures. They serve as the unseen scaffolding upon which civilizations build their understanding of life, morality, and purpose. To explore the collective unconscious is to recognize that humanity is interconnected not only through language and tradition, but through a shared psychic inheritance that spans generations and continents. One of the most compelling aspects of this shared unconscious is its role in shaping myths and cultural narratives. Across the world, diverse societies tell stories that are strikingly similar in theme and structure, even when there has been no apparent contact between them. The hero's journey, the wise elder, the trickster, the creation myth, these motifs appear consistently in every corner of the earth. Their recurrence is not coincidental. These stories are manifestations of archetypal patterns. Embedded in the collective unconscious, they provide guidance, caution, and inspiration, transmitting wisdom accumulated over countless generations. In studying these narratives, we glimpse the enduring concerns, fears, and aspiration of humanity. all encoded in symbolic language that speaks to the depths of the psyche. Art is another domain where the influence of the collective unconscious is vividly apparent. Painters, sculptors, writers, and musicians often draw from symbols and forms that appear independently in disparate cultures. Consider the universality of the modular, a circular form representing wholeness, unity, and the cosmos, which emerges in Eastern and Western traditions alike. Such recurring symbols reveal that creative expression is often less a matter of individual invention than a dialogue with inherited archetypal structures. In this sense, artists are conduits, translating the deep language of the collective unconscious into forms that inspire, challenge, and transform the world. The collective unconscious also informs our moral and social development. Archetypal patterns shape the ethical frameworks, rituals, and institutions that guide human behavior. For example, the archetypes of justice, wisdom, and heroism are expressed in legal systems, religious teachings, and cultural norms. Conversely, the unacknowledged shadow of the collective unconscious can manifest as social injustice, prejudice, or conflict. By becoming aware of these inherited forces, societies, like individuals, gain the opportunity to consciously shape their evolution, to integrate the wisdom of the past while mitigating the destructive potential of unexamined impulses. Education, too, is profoundly influenced by these unconscious patterns. Children inherit not only the physical and cognitive traits of their ancestors, but also emotional, imaginative, and symbolic capacities encoded in the collective unconscious. Stories, myths, and rituals help them internalize archetypal lessons, shaping their understanding of courage, morality, and identity. Recognizing this inheritance allows educators, parents, and mentors to nurture development that is both personal and aligned with universal human patterns, fostering the growth of individuals who are aware of their inner resources and their place within the broader human story. In reflecting on the modern era, I find that the influence of the collective unconscious is perhaps even more apparent. Amid rapid societal change, technology, globalization, and cultural exchange bring new experiences and challenges. Yet the deep patterns of the psyche persist. Dreams, myths, and artistic expressions continue to echo the ancient archetypes, reminding us that while human culture evolves, the inherited structures of the mind remain a guiding force. Our collective unconscious offers continuity and stability, serving as a bridge between the past and the present, linking us to the wisdom and experiences of countless ancestors. The spiritual implications of this inheritance are profound. To recognize the collective unconscious is to acknowledge that the human mind is part of something greater than itself, a timeless network of shared psychic structures, symbols, and energies. This realization fosters humility and reverence, for it reminds us that we are not isolated beings, but participants in an ongoing, intergenerational dialogue. We inherit both light and darkness, creativity and fear, wisdom and limitation. And in acknowledging this inheritance, we are called to consciously navigate our lives with integrity, courage, and awareness. Moreover, the collective unconscious offers guidance for the future. By engaging consciously with the archetypes and inherited patterns, humanity can learn from the lessons of the past, integrate the wisdom of ancestors, and address the shadows that continue to manifest in personal and collective behavior. It invites us to evolve not only individually, but collectively, shaping societies, cultures, and civilizations in alignment with the deeper currents of human nature. The process of individuation at the personal level mirrors the broader evolution of humanity, as we strive toward greater awareness, integration, and wholeness. In conclusion, the collective unconscious is both a personal and universal reality. It is the inherited dimension of the psyche, connecting us to our ancestors, to archetypal patterns, and to the deeper truths of human experience. Through dreams, myths, art, and symbolic expression, it communicates with us, offering insight, guidance, and opportunity for growth. By acknowledging and engaging with the collective unconscious, we participate in a profound dialogue with the past, the present, and the future of humanity. We inherit not only the legacy of our ancestors' fears and struggles, but also their wisdom, creativity, and potential. To recognize this inheritance is to embark on a journey toward wholeness, individuation, and a deeper understanding of what it means to be human, a journey that is both timeless and infinitely personal.